Welcome to Gender Diversity, First Steps to a Respectful Workplace, brought to you by the Rainbow Diversity Institute. We're a Black-owned company that creates materials like these and so much more to help foster meaningful, real growth around diversity and lots of other things. You can check us out at rainbowdiversityinstitute.ca. This little video is just going to touch on a few of the most basic things about having a more respectful workplace around gender diversity. We're going to talk a little bit about documentation, communication like email, and washrooms. Documentation comes in lots of different forms. It can be the intake packet that happens when a new employee is onboarded and trained, and we have to gather all sorts of information about them for taxes and HR and all sorts of other reasons. Documentation also happens when we send updates to our staff, and documentation happens from our organization to whoever our customers and other groups are that we communicate with. So documentation is both internal and external. A few ways to begin making our documentation more respectful of gender diversity includes getting rid of checkboxes or choices for marking gender, pronouns, and honorifics, and replacing them with fill in the blanks. That could make for a little more record keeping on your side. It may be that you combine things and offer a larger range of gender options as well as an additional fill in the blank so that you can categorize as you need to. Speaking of categories, we need to make a lot more of them. Two just isn't enough when it comes to gender. Therefore, we can take a look at what some of the leading thinkers are doing and how they make categories around gender, and we can utilize that as well. There's a great deal of guidance available online on how to create a more respectful list of gender categories if we really need to have checkboxes instead of fill in the blank. In our documentation, we need to weed through and remove assumptions. If there are documents that assume a gender of a person, a pronoun of a person, even how many people are in a relationship or family, we can remove those and let people have the opportunity to give us that information themselves. Trust me, people notice, especially folks that find themselves struggling to enter accurate information on documentation without causing trouble at their workplace or for themselves in their job, and also while still trying to respect themselves. One of the big steps in this is removing or expanding pronouns and honorifics entirely on your documentation. Honorifics are the things like sir, ma'am, all those sorts of things that honor and show respect to others, but also tend to be really based in gender. We don't need to use gender in order to show respect to others. We can go ahead and find other words instead. We can also just remove that to a certain degree that's outdated, but we can also expand our respect by not basing it on gender. If you think about it, it's a little bit weird that we're kind of guessing what's in people's pants and then showing our respect by using words that match that. We can do better and use other ways of respecting each other. And in fact, when it comes to communication in general, through our documentation, but also through things like email, we should remove gender when showing respect to groups and be really careful that we're being accurate and that we've actually asked and remembered around what words to use with individuals. So saying things like ladies and gentlemen can absolutely be replaced with esteemed guests or valued customers or whatever the case might be. We can also encourage in our workplace the updating of names and pronouns in our systems on a regular basis. Because not just that people might be changing them all the time, but also that people might have not known whether they were safe and able to disclose that at your workplace when they were hired and set up in the system. After all, that can be the scariest time when you're trying to keep the job you just got. So we can encourage this perhaps on an annual basis, twice a year, something like that, letting people know that they can update their names and pronouns in the system, whether that's email or other places, and also letting them know that there can be ways to update our names and pronouns in our communications without necessarily changing them in some of the formal documentation about healthcare, taxes, or other places, because sometimes folks are using a name or pronoun that isn't reflected in their official government documentation. But we still want to support those folks. Many people use names like nicknames that aren't in their government documentation. We have ways to handle this, and we can expand this to folks who are doing it for gender reasons as well. Washrooms are a really important thing. And the idea that we go to work and can't use the bathroom safely or in a way that's accurate and respectful to who we are can really make a difference in whether we stay at a company and whether we do our best work for them. Washrooms need to balance privacy with accessibility. There are absolutely people who need to know that they are closed off and respected, and their modesty is prioritized around anyone who may be of different genders. It's really important to respect those beliefs, which may be religious or otherwise. And part of respecting that is making sure that people can use the washroom facilities that are accurate to their gender so folks aren't unknowingly exposing themselves when it would be against their values or beliefs. So we can take a look at our facilities and make sure that the walls around the areas where we have a toilet or we have a mirror perhaps are made so that there's actual privacy. And we can do consultation on this sort of accessibility. We also have to make sure that we aren't sending people who need a washroom that we might not necessarily anticipate by looking at them way down the hall, around the corner, and down 2 flights of stairs in order to get to the washroom that feels safer and better for them. This is singling them out and also lets people know that they're not valued as much as everyone else. It's a pretty crummy way to do business. So we can label our facilities by what sort of stuff is inside them. We don't need to put a weird stick figure with a skirt or with pants. We can instead show that there's a toilet, a change table, a urinal, and a sink, or whatever else may be available in those facilities, along with a sign to let people know where to find the other facilities. For example, if there's no urinal in this washroom, but there is a urinal in the washroom to the left, we can show that with a sign that the urinal is arrow the door to the left instead. So there should be directions to other facilities as well, including whether they're group washrooms or individual washrooms. Don't wait for there to be a problem to address washrooms. This sort of update can take time. Maybe you've already had concerns addressed, but if not, let's go ahead and take care of this before it comes up. There are so many benefits to moving to a more gender inclusive and respectful workplace. Addressing concerns before they're raised makes a huge difference to our employees. And also, it takes a lot of the stress and hassle out for folks who have to respond to these concerns because we're no longer dealing with them as urgent matters. Employees who feel respected are more likely to stay and more likely to do better work and less likely to need additional time off. And that is important to our productivity as well. Being able to show that our workplace is continuing to make progress around gender diversity and respect also allows us to recruit when we're looking to hire for more aware and respectful pools of people, folks who are more likely to value respecting each other in the workplace and are more likely to be aware of the things that are important today to coworkers, administration, as well as customers and clients, whoever those may be. Those sound like some pretty important benefits, but also it's part of how we grow and do better and become better people and organizations and contribute to a better world because everybody needs a safe place to pee and respectful ways of referring to themselves in communication and documentation. So, thank you for taking a listen to Gender Diversity First Steps to a Respectful Workplace. This was from the Rainbow Diversity Institute, and we hope you'll check us out to learn more about us at rainbowdiversityinstitute.ca.